Welcome to the channel, I'm Nick and this is my G60. I'm just going to do a bit of a recap. Gee, I reckon it's probably 2 years to get to this point. But yeah, let's go over it. We'll go from the start. So the 1978 G60 is what I first bought. This is the gold color. That was resprayed, it was green underneath. It was a wagon style, fiberglass roof. Bought it for 1,500 bucks. Plan of just basically restoing it. And then I thought, fuck, that's boring. So I didn't. Then I had the brainwave of buying my mate's GQ, which was pretty well rusted as far as the body. Chassis is in good condition, and that's the chassis that it's sitting on now. So then I went down the path of, I actually also bought an MK Patrol, and I was going to put the G60 onto that chassis and then scrap that idea. So yeah, bought Zerner, my mate, bought his GQ, and then I had the brainwave of putting the shell of the G60 around the floor pan of the GQ. Probably a little bit naive, to be honest. Stupid amounts of work. After I realized that, and I bought Zerner's GQ thinking that I would just use chassis, motor, and scrap the body. And then I had the idea of using the firewall floor pan, and because it was so rusted, I then went to a wrecker and got the dark green GQ, cut it in half and brought that home because that was really clean, like really basically rust free other than some parts that are going to get cut out anyway, or have been cut out. So I've got a G60, I've got a GQ, I've got a GQ, an MK, and then I bought another G60. So this is, and I've also put GU diffs under it. So I guess it's about 5 or 6 different, well, I didn't use any of the MK, but so let's say 5 pieces, parts of different patrols. So first things first, what I did, this may not be in order now that I say that. Full chassis got completely blasted, and then I coated it with POR 15, where I did lots and lots of research and lots of hot rod forums and whatever, and the best way of coating a chassis. And I didn't concentrate too much on, well, I tried not to concentrate at all at blasting the inside of the chassis. When I was coating it, obviously cleaned it really, really well, and then coated it. I tried to spray as much as possible in there. For the chassis, there was a fair bit of chassis work done. Now this, I engaged the help of a engine, well, I still have engaged the help of he's been really, really good actually, engineer. His name's Sot. Stoked that I've got him on board because he actually cares about what things look like, which is odd for an engineer. I got him here early. He come and said, like, let's have a meeting. We need to see this project. It's fairly full on, so it's not something you can discuss over the phone. And he's just like, okay, you're going to put this G60 body around the GQ, and then he was looking side on, and he got a picture up on his phone of what a factory G60 looks like, and wheel centers in arches and whatever. And he suggested that you go into this much effort, why have a vehicle that is not going to look like it? Proportionally, it's not going to look correct anyway. So he's just like walking around the car, and he's just like, all right, what we're going to do, Nick, is we're going to move all your engine mounts, trans mounts, body mounts, all backwards on the chassis. We're going to have issues. Radiator's going to be interfering with steering box, drive shafts need to be lengthened and shortened, steering column, like nothing super critical, that's going to be too much of a headache to fix. But in order to get that wheel sitting where it needs to, or very, very close to, we got that by shuffling everything back. So that was all done before the chassis was coated, obviously, and that was a fair task in itself, making sure all like measurements and string lines and lasers, everything was like super precise to make sure that when it all goes back together and the body goes on, it's going to fit, everything's aligned properly. Also, there was some strengthening. Hydraulic bump stops were mounting, all the mounting and strengthening for all the coil the top coil hats. Also, the rear has some more strengthening because their GUs are known for some tearing on the rear coil seats. All of that chassis work got done before coating. Now, this is the scope of the project. It's so large and in depth that you've really got to think about the whole thing to a degree. I'm saying that because I still haven't finished welding off my hydraulic bump stop mounting can in the front end, and that's because I'm getting to the stage now where I need to mock up tyre sizes and clearances with my guards now that they're altered. So something so far back in the build still isn't completed because I need to get further in order to get clearances and whatnot. After that, and everything other than them cool, the hydraulic bump stop mounts in the front, they're the only thing that need to be coated, welded in and coated. The whole chassis has been refurbed. It looks sick. I'm pretty happy, and like it's going to be, because it's been sitting for so long, it's going to be super hard, and it should be a really good coating. Diffs, like I mentioned before, they're a GU diff, they're stronger. I've put superior brace kit on front and back of them, and also coated it with a POR. They've all been fully rebuilt, new bearings, diff locks. So I've got front and rear Eaton E-lockers in there. And then all suspension. Now I'm not hiding anything. Superior jumped on board, which I'm super thankful for, and Dobinson's, so very thankful for them. What do we have next? The bodywork. Now the bodywork has been just an absolute mission. This is where most of the hours has been going. So like I said, I've used the firewall, the floor pan of a GQ Patrol. Now the reason for doing this is because, well, there's a couple reasons. I want it to be an OEM standard car. I'm not using RHS. I'm not using, just welding in some pipe to pick things up. It's all flanged correctly. It's all as you would see if you were to pull it apart, like I pulled the G60 and the GQ, or both of them apart. Like I've sort of gained a fair bit of knowledge in doing that, and I'm using that knowledge to recreate it. So everything's getting built as it would have been stamped out of the factory, sort of thing, to the best of my capability. I think I've used a bit of a top hat section in the back wall, but other than that, everything is sheet steel, and it's been pressed in here, bead rolled, whatever. Like it's all been very, very custom, and that's where the hours go. So my reasoning for using the GQ as a base is because you can still buy gear for it. So you can buy master cylinders, anything bolts back in. It's also the right shape for the motor that's going in it, because it's the motor that came out of it. That's the TD42, once again, same motor that's in my GU. I don't care what people say about being a kettle. If it's maintained correct, I've just had such a good run in that GU, so fingers crossed I will with this too, and I won't be eating my words. Everything fits in and around the tunnel for the transmission. It's a pretty well, once the panel work is done, the bolt up stage with all clearances for pedals and all this stuff is pretty well standard off the shelf items. So yeah, like I mentioned, I bought another. Originally I was going to keep it standard. Originally I was going to keep it on, put the G60 straight onto this chassis, and then I was going to keep it a wagon. So now, because it's been so long, I've had these chats and these thoughts and people's opinions, and we've come up with it's going to be a ute, to be confirmed what's going on the back. But it's a single cab ute with GU diffs, GQ Patrol chassis, and now as it evolves, it gets more and more custom as far as panel work goes. So I bought the second G60, which was a ute, because I needed a roof and I needed a back wall and rear quarters. Hindsight, should have bought a ute to start with. My first panel that I built was my plenum panel, I guess you'd call it. I actually did it twice because I wasn't happy with the first one, and then cut it up and incorporated the windscreen in it. I did that because the engineer said, look, it's going to be best if it was all tied in. Literally every single panel has been, well, will be at the moment, every single panel has been completely pulled apart. So every flange, spot welds have been undone, rust protected all the backside, like coated the inside of each panel. So there is going to be, well, there is no rust in it. All the back flanges have been replaced on the back walls, on the quarter panels. All these guards, which I'm working on at the moment, they're a 3-piece guard that all weld together. They've all been pulled apart, new flanges everywhere. It's just like an absolute massive, massive mission. Might add, I'm not also, this isn't my profession. I'm a carpenter by trade, so working with my hands and with tools, but yeah, this has been a really, really cool learning curve. that I'm obviously passionate about, because otherwise you wouldn't get this far. So yeah, now we come to proportions. Obviously, with everything moved back on the chassis, and things need to be stretched in multiple different ways in different parts, so it can still look like it's going to be bigger than a G60. If you put a G60, just the body I'm talking, if you put this next to a G60, this is physically bigger. So I've stretched it in different locations, but effectively I put a sill panel on it. So I created that whole sill panel. Let's go back to the start. Stripping down the GQ and stripping down the G60. If you pull the back to the body, so sills come off all unstitched, they're actually about 13 mil difference in width, being the G60 is actually wider than from where the sills spot weld to, from that part on each car, they're only 13 mil difference. So that was easy to lose that much. To be honest, I can't even tell you where I lost that. Where the difference is in this is the length of the vehicle. So after I'd created my sill, because the G60 didn't have a sill panel, that was just basically the door was the bottom of the car. I didn't want that. I wanted it to have a sill panel, seals better, a few different reasons. But because I put that extra 60 mil onto the bottom of the car, all of a sudden the proportions are going to get thrown out. So I needed to extend the front of the car anyway to get a radiator and potentially a condenser in there as well for aircon. So helping, because I've gone up, I've also gone out as well, out lengthways longer. So I've added in 85 mil to the front guards. So I put that 85 mil in this section, I put the 85 mil here and here. The reason for that is because they were the most consistent areas to extend. This is tapered, so if I put that 85 mil all in one section, that taper is going to flatten out and there'll be a step in it, which will look shit. Covered by the bonnet, yes, but you know, I did it in the rear end, so it's continuous. This was the most consistent part of the guard, so I extended it in there also. I've also pumped that out. I'll get to that in a bit. So that was the 85 mil extension in there. Now, I also added a 50 mil by memory, 50 mil extension into this rear quarter. That's a whole new piece of steel there, and then I've reused and extended that. And then obviously extending that, I've also needed to, well, you can probably tell the doors need to be extended as well. So between that 50 and that, I think that's a 75 or something, I've then added that into the roof as well. So there's a whole new strip in the middle of the roof, and then it's lengthened it front to back. As I'm doing that, unstitching everything, extending everything, repairing rust in all the flanges. Like, it's amazing how much rust you think, oh, that panel looks good. You start stripping it back and it's like, oh, that panel's not good. The whole structure around the roof, where your seatbelt mounts are, the back of the structure in the back wall of the G60, like that whole structure around was rusted, gone. Like it was just nothing. So that's all new. That's been completely redone. Using the same methods. This is all getting liaised with the engineer as well, as far as mounts and everything. So I actually put a strengthening skeleton in the back wall, because then I can mount things to it as well. Trying to think about what I want to put on the back wall, whether it's a 12-volt system or anything I can mount there. I don't have to think about it down the track. Where I'm at now, I'm focusing on my front end here. This detail here has changed. I wanted to make it a bit more custom and flare these out a bit. It was actually Marco's idea to give it a more wide body stance on it, because I need to cover so much of my tyre that I think I needed to cover about 125 mil or 135 mil, because the GU diffs are in it, which are wider again than a GQ. So I need to cover that for legal reasons. It won't be registered if you don't have guards covered. I didn't want to use Bunnings garden edging. So my idea is to minimize what I need to put here to cover the tire by adding a bit more of that panel work. The idea, basically a brush bar, but in the shape of a flare. So it'll be chassis mounted. It won't be mounted to the panel at all. There will need to be a gap. So you can lean it against something without crushing the panel. That's my goal. That will flow into side step, which will be like a slider, more like a rock slider. So it'll be structural again. All the mounting is on the chassis for that. So we've thought about that. That's incorporated into the long arm kit with that Superior supplied. So that's where I'm at now. Once this front end's done, mounting to the body and all that sort of stuff is done, I'm going to move sort of between tidying up the engine bay, because there's extended coil, extended shock towers and whatever that are not in the location because everything's been moved back on the chassis. So all that needs to be tidied up. And I still need to move inside and finish off dash, seating position and a few things in there too. But like I said, once all that custom work's done, the bolt-in stuff, it's just refitting the car. I would love to rebuild the motor and spec it up to a turbo spec TD, because it was NA. But funds, it's a costly exercise. But yeah, that's sort of where we're at. That's a bit of a basic rundown on what it is and why it's taking so goddamn long. Where's my phone? I put it to the Instagram world about any questions to add into this, so we'll have a bit of a look-see. Thanks, Carl, for your message. What's the plans for the motor? Just going to run it as is or spice it up? Well, I just covered that one without knowing. It's going to be the TD for reasons I've just described. I would like to spice it up because I like to do things a bit, we want a bit more power than just the standard. Still want it to be reliable. I want to use this thing. It needs to be reliable, and it's going to be put through its paces. So, yeah. Yes, I want to spice it up a little bit. Next question. Would you put a newer dash in it, a Series 4 GU? Thanks, Colby McDonald. No, I will not put a Series 4 dash in it. I'm going to keep the standard G60 appeal in there with some mod cons. I'm in the process of just about to drop some dollars onto the aircon system. I need demisters by law, so I'm like, well, and I should have room for a condenser in the front. So I'm thinking, as far as just a creature comfort, if you're cruising through the desert, it would be nice just to flick the AC on. Heater I can do without, but yeah, AC, I think that's the way I'll go down. Another big expense, but I don't know what I've gone to that, but yeah. No, I won't put the Series 4 dash in it. It will be old style G60. Allman 75s. Have you kept a tally on how many hours? No, someone asked me that the other day, and I sort of roughly estimated what I've spent just on the guard. It's stupid amounts of hours. It's not only hours working on it either. Like, I'll lay in bed and just think about the next step, or think about 6 steps ahead to try and nut out a problem before it's a problem. So I haven't kept a tally on hours. That would be really, really hard to do. Physical hours would be doable, but massive hours. How's the engineer, big country, little legs, has the engineer just gone, why are you doing this? No, engineer's really good. I haven't had to bother him too much. I know he's busy, and I just email him with questions or photos or whatever he needs to know throughout the build, and he'll get back to me when he gets back to me. I'm not waiting for him to, like, I'll preempt what I need to know from him, so I don't have to be like, I need this answer now. I think he appreciates that, and he'll get back to me when he gets back to me. And it's been working. It's been a good relationship like that. He also trusts in my skills and my knowledge of like the engineering side of it, strength, and you know what standard of needs to be at. So engineer's been really good. Dan Graham, expected goal or completion date, middle of the year, middle of this year, 2025. It needs to be engineered and on the road. There may be some small things that aren't done as far as accessories, and that'll be more budget related. But yeah, middle of the year, it's the big push. I think it's achievable, but it's a lot of work. Still a lot of work to go. Big country, little legs again. I see there's a few from him. Is this all worth it to replace some leaf springs? Hell yeah. This is going to be a one-of-a-kind vehicle that's going to be super capable and really, really cool. Would you do it? Like, the other thing is with this build is I'm not just doing it to gain some traction. Like, it's something that I want to build. I'm interested in it. I've got a passion for the actual metal forming and panel work. If you didn't enjoy this, it would be hell. Because it gets the best of me sometimes, and I'm like, fuck, like if I think too far ahead and how much work, and it just overwhelms me like you wouldn't believe. I've started writing, like yesterday I wrote lists on what I need to just focus on rather than far out. Then I'll be jumping into the dash and I'll be working on that. I'm like, no, Nick, go back to what you're doing on the front end, because you're just getting sidetracked, pun intended. So no, it's like, you wouldn't do it if you didn't have the passion for it. So I believe, yes, it is all worth it to replace some leaf springs, but that's not why I'm doing it, because it would not be. Why not pump the guards out more? So the reason, I did go over that before, the reason for it is to minimize, I don't want it to look like a trophy truck as such, where they're super pumped out and they look kind of dopey. I wanted a subtle difference, but keeping the vintage of the car. I didn't want to completely fuck that, if that makes sense. I wanted to minimize the amount of flare, like them dopey 40 series Land Cruisers, where they've got like 300 mil of coverage for their tire. I don't like that. So this was a way of a subtle difference with a purpose. Big country, little legs again. If you started over again, would you still be fitting a G60 cab onto a GQ floor pan? I think so, yes. Like I said before, I was pretty naive. Like the hours that went just into this A-pillar section is ridiculous. And it's all part that you'll never see again, like in there, behind there. But I'd never done it before, and I didn't know what sort of strength you need to hinges. Like, so it's a bit of trial and error. Recreating how it was as well. So I took the GQ and the G60, and because I pulled two of each of them cars apart, you sort of work out how the engineering side needs to be at a minimum. So I think I would still. I think it's still a good move. It's going to have an OEM style rather than I don't want to say butchered, but I just said it. Braden 3669's response: what's the cost so far? To be honest, it isn't, like I said, Superior have donated all the suspension with Dobinson's shocks and bump stops. So that's a big cost in itself. There's probably close to 20 grand just in that. You know, I've also had some smaller contributions. POR stepped in with all the chassis coating stuff. You know, there's, who else we've had help out? Bendix kit. So all these things help as far as products. Now, panel work isn't actually that expensive as far as cost to do it. There's some paint. You know, you're using like Rolock discs, sanding discs and stuff like that, sanding pads. But overall, like, your costs aren't that big. Where I have spent too much is equipment. All the equipment you see sitting around the shed here. We had the pan brake before, but like bead roller, 2 shrinker stretchers because I got sick of changing the jaws over, the English wheel, the Gillo, you know, all these things, that far outweighs the cost of the panel work so far. I reckon at the moment I'd probably be up to about, it's hard to say because sundry items I haven't even taken much notice of, but it'd be over 30 grand, but less than 40, I reckon. All right, well, the camera's starting to overheat. That's pretty well the basics of this. Is probably gone for too long anyway, but there it is, the G60. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. Leave a comment if you got a comment. Don't be shy. I'll see you on the next video.